Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a totally fascinating roadmap for escaping mental subjugation and achieving, well, ultimate clarity. We're going to explore the original concepts from Lai Zimin Chan Yuan, Life Chan Yuan Dao You Sheifeng the Jiaohui He Zhu Cui, that is, the teachings and writings of Guide Shufeng from Life Chan Yuan. We'll be breaking down exactly how you can cultivate what he calls an integrated and independent consciousness. Let's get right to it. Okay, so here is our game plan. We'll start by looking at the root of human suffering, define what true independent consciousness actually means, unpack the 8 essential courses you need to get there, apply all of that to overcoming relational conflicts, and finally explore how to enter the realm of freedom. But before we really unpack the syllabus, I want you to ask yourself a seriously fundamental question. Who is actually steering your life? Like, do you make your own choices, or are you secretly just a vassal to other people's consciousnesses? It's kind of a heavy thought, right? But honestly, it's the absolute perfect entry point into Guy Shuifeng's philosophy. So let's kick things off with Section 1, the root of human suffering. Guy Shuifeng makes a pretty bold argument here. He says that our everyday struggles, the constant contradictions, the persistent anxieties, and that totally paralyzing feeling of being caught in a dilemma, they all stem directly from having an incomplete, dependent consciousness. Basically, when you rely too heavily on the outside world, you vacillate. You end up taking reckless risks, simply because you lack a solid internal compass. Now, it's incredibly fascinating to frame this as a sort of metaphorical battle for your mind. Shufeng actually uses the terms slave and slave owner to describe these states of consciousness. A slave lacks an integrated independent consciousness, meaning they stay passive and, frankly, are easily confused by the world. On the flip side, a slave owner has a relatively integrated consciousness and actively uses it to control the indecisive folks. Essentially, the message is this: if you don't know your own mind, someone else will gladly make it up for you. You've probably heard some version of the old adage, following people's advice and bread will be coming. Sounds comforting, right? While Zhu Fang warns that this common saying is actually a deceptive trap. It's literal bait from those metaphorical slave owners. It's designed to keep you passive and entirely reliant on the validation of others just to survive. Okay, so if relying on others is a trap, how do we actually break free? Let's move into Section 2, defining true independent consciousness. The ultimate goal we're aiming for here is achieving a state known as self-harmony, or Tathagata. This is considered the absolute supreme realm of self-cultivation. You reach this point when your consciousness is no longer influenced, swayed, or interfered with by your fellow humans in any way. Your true self of origin is basically no longer drowned out by all the outside noise. You become completely, perfectly consistent within yourself. But, and this is a really crucial distinction to make, true spiritual independence is not just about being difficult. It's not about being stubborn, always insisting on getting your own way, or rigidly sticking to some dogma. Not at all. True independence means your personal values conform to the universal flow, which Shufeng calls the way of the greatest creator. It means you handle life's affairs smoothly, without being dragged down by the chaotic consciousnesses swirling all around you. So, how do we get there? To reach this elevated state of self-harmony, Shufeng lays out a highly specific roadmap. Let's look at Section 3, the 8 essential courses. Now, before we actually dive into the syllabus, there is a very strict warning here. You absolutely cannot skip steps. The teachings explicitly state that trying to form independence without the complete, big-picture perspective of all 8 courses creates a consciousness that is fundamentally flawed and blind. Even worse, having a half-baked independence can easily lead a person toward despotism because they're wielding power without any universal context. All right, so the first 4 courses zoom all the way out to a massive macro-level understanding of existence. First, you have to grasp the origins and the overarching evolutionary trends of the universe and humanity. Then, you really need to understand the inherent value and meaning of life itself. And crucially, you have to understand Tao's features and its universal laws. Things like the law of causality and this fascinating reality that the total sum of positive and negative energy in the universe always balances out to 0. From there, the final 4 courses transition into some seriously profound cosmic mysteries before bringing it all back down to Earth. You'll study 20 parallel worlds and 36-dimensional spaces. I mean, we're talking about exploring the non-material world and antimatter. Then, you turn that lens inward to get a crystal clear picture of your own personal condition and direction. Finally, Course 8 culminates in giving you the ability to observe human society from a higher, totally objective perspective so you can clearly see its operating mechanisms and, of course, its flaws. Now, you might be thinking, okay, how does knowing about antimatter and parallel dimensions help me when I'm arguing with my coworker? That brings us perfectly to Section 4, Overcoming Relational Conflicts. This is exactly where Life Chuanyuan's teachings become incredibly practical for our daily lives. Consider this quote: "Most of the injuries that we suffer in our lifetimes are caused by our relationships with other people." According to Xu Fang, the direct cause of all these painful interpersonal injuries isn't just bad luck or toxic friends or a terrible boss. The real root cause is our own lack of an integrated and independent consciousness clashing head-on with the consciousnesses of others. So, resolving these painful social conflicts follows a very clear three-step path. First, you use those 8 courses we just talked about to actually cultivate an integrated, independent consciousness. Second, armed with all that clarity, you break free from the influence and control of others. You basically refuse to be the vassal anymore. And third, you unite with Tao. You achieve this state of complete self-harmony where the boundless universe finally makes sense to you, and the petty, everyday interpersonal drama simply cannot touch your core. As we approach the final stage of the teachings, we enter Section 5, Entering the Realm of Freedom. A truly fascinating aspect of this whole philosophy is how the dynamic between the student and the guide completely shifts at the very end. Really emphasizing true empowerment, Xu Fang acts strictly as a guide. He's not a master, he's not a savior. His only goal is to bring practitioners to a summit of wisdom where they resonate in total harmony at the exact same frequency. At that summit, all that interplay and interference vanishes. Everyone is ultimately equal and totally, completely independent of one another. And this all builds up to a massive ultimate conclusion. The transformation guide Xu Fang is pointing to is a permanent move away from what he calls the kingdom of necessity, which is a life characterized by bondage, shackles, and being constantly controlled by the consciousnesses of others. Instead, you step right into the realm of freedom. Here, you have a perfectly clear mind, you decide entirely for yourself, and spiritually, you escape the exhausting cycle of rebirths. So as we wrap up this explainer on Guide Xu Fang's teachings, I want to leave you with one final, pretty provocative challenge. Are you going to break the shackles of outside influence? Are you willing to do the difficult work to step out of the kingdom of necessity and into the true realm of freedom? The roadmap is laid out right in front of us, but that independent choice, that absolutely has to be yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and always keep questioning the world around you.